And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Treasure Hunting Convoy YouTube channel. What we're talking about, what I named it was actually, I'm going to have a little bit of an echo here, Mark, and I'll mute you in a second. But so the title of this is 10x your reselling with PPC, gambling debts, and tumbleweeds. There's some fun stuff here, but I want to start with a joke here. All right, I think anything that starts with a joke always ends really well. So here we go. And Mark, next time maybe you can lead with a joke. So here we go. So there's this ship out on the open sea, and they're cruising along, and they see 3 pirate ships, and the captain says, "Bring me my red shirt." So they bring him his red shirt, and they start fighting. They battle it out and everything like that, and they win. Huzzah! The next day, they see 5 pirate ships, and the captain says, "Bring me my red shirt." And they fight and they win, and they're having this big celebration afterwards. And they said, "Captain, why do you always ask for your red shirt?" And he said, "Well, I don't want you to get discouraged. If I get stabbed and I start bleeding, I don't want you to see me bleeding. I want you to keep fighting." And the crew was just blown away. This is a moment of silence. Wow. Next day, 25 ships show up on the horizon. These pirate ships just coming towards them. The crew looks at the captain. The captain says, "Bring me my brown pants."
Oh boy.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, we always good to lead with a joke, and it was something that I thought would be really good because some of the stuff that we're talking about is just absolutely hilarious. I'll go with another one because Mark's got some really good stuff to bring to the table. But I have limited reseller experience. Mark has quite a bit more than me. But last year I was living in Dallas, and there's just so many reselling opportunities. And Mark and I have talked about this quite a bit. I mean, so much so that, I mean, in fact, Gary Vaynerchuk is doing this whole series about dumpster diving. All right, cool. But I mean, you'd be surprised at the kind of stuff. I'm not just saying dumpster diving, but like if you go as far as just like Craigslist free stuff, or wherever you are locally, whatever your local place. I'm in Utah, so one of the big places is KSL.com. It's one of the TV channels, but for some reason, KSL.com just became like the place where you'd go and you'd buy stuff. It's like the secondary market specifically in Utah to buy and sell things. I don't know what it is about it, but I don't know, Mark, do you have anything like that in Albuquerque where there's like Craigslist, but then there's like some specific thing where it's like, oh, well, if you're a local, this is the website you go to. Anything like that?
It's mainly Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and a few of the other smaller apps like OfferUp and 5 Mile.
Okay, all right.
Are really the ones that people take to.
Okay, so I'm in Dallas, right? And I start. There's so many opportunities. It's such good deals. I was like, well, let's take a look at what I can just get for free. So I've been doing some research on the Craigslist free stuff, and I find I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones, and I find someone's listed for free Game of Thrones poster wrapped up. I mean, took a picture and everything like that. So I mean, it was brand new, sealed, and everything like that. And so then I researched it. The guy's giving it away for free. The poster's like worth $35. So it's like, what's my return on investment? I don't know, infinite. I don't know how you really calculate that, because he's just like, here you go, and gave it to me for free. But when I was at his house, he said, "What is the intent? What do you want to use this for?" And I was like, "Well, I buy and sell stuff on Amazon and eBay and all that kind of stuff." I mean, I'm very transparent. I'm not going to tell people like, "Oh no, this is for my nephew." So then he goes, "Oh yeah, I used to do that too, but it's not really my thing anymore. Hold on a second." And he just opens up this door, no joke, and he just starts handing me stuff, just brand new in the package. And he's just like, "Nah, I don't really want to do it anymore. So if somebody else wants to do it like you, go ahead." So it started out as like, here's a free thing, you can flip it for $35. And then here's a bunch of other free stuff. And so I'm like, all right, cool. I'm loading my car, and the guy, I think he was just kind of lonely and just wanted someone to talk to, because like he was just like, "Hey, we're friends now. Do you want to hang out?" I'm like, no, thank you. But So I noticed he's got his finger wrapped up, right? Looks like it's like some gauze bandage or something like that. And I go, so just curious, how'd you hurt your finger? And I kid you not, he just pops it off. He takes it off. He didn't have a finger. And so I'm like, and he's like, oh, well, it was a gambling debt. No joke. He seriously was like, I lost a bet and they cut off my finger. He's like, you should have seen what I could have won though. And of course, stupid me, I was just like, okay, bye. And I left. And now that's forever in my brain because I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know what it was that he was willing to give up for a finger. So then after that, I was like, what would be the thing that I would say, yeah, I'll lose a finger for this. I figured $1 million house maybe, right? Mark, what is there? Do you have a line right where you go, yeah, I would get this finger cut off. I'm willing to risk that finger. Do you have a number? Do you have a thing that you'd be like, yeah, I'll lose a finger for that?
$5 or $6 million at least.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, like everybody's got their price for something, you know. So that got me thinking, and it sort of built the idea for this particular episode. And Mark, that's what you had brought up. You were talking about PPC as a gamble, right? So you want to tell us a little bit about that, more maybe kind of a lead in there of like, well, it's a gamble. You don't have to lose a finger.
Well, that's true. The biggest thing with PPC, you don't really have to invest that much money into it, and as long as you know and you've done your research in regards to what keywords are going to be a hit, you could sit there and with the way Google AdWords sets it up is almost stupid proof. You could sit there and actually click each word. It'll sit there and generate it for you. It's like, okay, yeah, that sounds close enough. And you can come up with like 150 or 200 words. Easy.
And prompt, like, it drives traffic, people interested, that they'll actually end up on your eBay or Amazon listing or Shopify, whatever it is. But I mean, you put that PPC in there and they just basically make it stupid proof for you, right?
Right. And by the time that's all said and done, you set your budget like X dollars per day. To give you an idea, I started at $5, and then when I didn't see the returns I was looking for, I upped it to 8. And then the last 2 days of the month, I upped it to 10 a day. And I mean, I'll preface this with the fact that when I did it, it was one of those spend 25, you get $100 credit. And I spent the 25 and then redid my ad, and that's how I ended up spending the other 100. And you notice the uptick of traffic to the website, which then in turn you notice the uptick in the eBay sales. You can pretty much lay one over the other and go, okay, the uptick on this day, yeah, okay, this came from here. And you don't really necessarily need to see, where the referral engine came from. You just need to look at the idea of, you just need to basically sit there and compare and contrast the numbers and charts. And it's, it's something, would I do it again? Hands down. If I had an extra $1,200 a year, I'd do it. But right now, like everybody, operational expenses aside,
right?
You gotta sit there and play whichever game is valid at that one particular point.
Right. So to that end, I was asking you this before. Would you do anything different, or would you just basically like kind of wash, rinse, repeat? You said they basically made it stupid proof. You just turn the ad back on.
I would just turn the ad back on. That's all I'd do. Nice. And maybe change a few keywords, but not anything major.
So what about like if like for instance if like say something that was just phenomenally good margins. Again, I don't want to give away too much. A lot of resellers don't really want to talk about the niche that they're in. So I don't want, I don't, I'm not, I don't want to like, give away what you're doing or anything like that. But let's say that you sourced an item or you found something that just had like just just some phenomenal margins. Would you possibly consider entertaining the PPC idea again, simply because you're like, okay, well, this has such good margins. If I could just push some more traffic directly to that, it could flip faster. Therefore, give me more margins. Therefore, more money sooner. You see my point?
I'll give you an example. I won't tell you figures, but I'll give you an example.
Nice.
Um, Basically, I bought, I did my weekly retail arbitrage in my local Target, and surprisingly, between the two, between Walmart and Target, Target's got the better quality stuff. And for some reason, every time I buy at Target, lo and behold, it sells. It sells. And I bought this John Cena posable plastic doll that is about 20 inches tall.
John Cena, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that guy.
And I was able to sit there and probably 5 times my money
Oh,
at
wow.
least
Okay.
on that one alone. And I put it up going like, I know this will sell, but I just don't know when. And that's pretty much my attitude in regards to everything I do via retail arbitrage. I mean, to give you an idea, I got one of those Cheers board games from the mid 1990s at a thrift store. I I 10x'd on that,
Oh, nice. Very nice.
even after all expenses.
I love board games, by the way, especially because you can find them. In fact, anytime I go thrifting, like that's the thing I look for is I'll just do a quick scan past all the toys and stuff, and then I'll just look for puzzles and board games that are already sealed, and those are the ones that I scan, because what's the point of scanning anything that's already open, especially at a thrift store, you know?
You. But yeah, it's one of those things that with going to different thrift stores, I mean, I'll experiment. I mean, you know, there are thrift stores, second and other secondhand stores in my area that, I mean, it's like every few months you see one popping up. It's kind of like a bad zit.
That's good.
And when you see those popping up, it's like, okay, I'll at least look at them once. I mean, I follow several of the local ones here that are here in my area on Facebook, and then when they say they're going to do like a 25% off sale off of a yellow or a blue tag or whatever, you know, that's when I will sit there and go, all right, I'm in that area. I'll go take a look. I mean, especially with having two kids, you sit there and taking them to a store. It's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. But um, but I've at least kind of gotten to the point now where I've taught my oldest that um, I'll be looking at something and he'll look at me going like, "That's for eBay, isn't it?"
Like, yep, it is. Sorry, buddy.
I said, yeah, yeah. Or he'll look at something Legos going like, "Is that for me or are you selling that on eBay?" It's like, no. He's like, "Because I already have that," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I bought it for you, and I'm selling another one on eBay."
Yeah, well, I did that all the time with my nephew. Well, it would be one of those things that I would watch his level of interest anytime he would go with me, and I would just use it as motivating things for like chores or anything like that. He'd be like, "Oh," I'd be like, "Well, sorry, buddy, that's probably going to be an eBay thing." And he's like, "Well, okay." And then later on, it's like, well, "Okay, I need you to rake the yard. I need you to do the dishes or something like that." "Oh, well, I don't really want to. I'm kind of bored." I'm like, "Tell you what, that thing I was going to sell on eBay. If you do this, yeah, negotiation kind of thing. Like they don't know what they're walking into when they show this huge level of interest and stuff like that. You're like, I got you now."
my, the funny thing about my son, he's a very slick negotiator.
Oh,
Um, he's like, "Well, no, wait a minute. How about this?" And
it gives you a counter offer. That's good.
I, my wife says he's more and more like me, but then again, I figure when he's old enough, I'll teach him the resell end of the business, and finding what would be considered a good deal and what wouldn't be.
There, yeah. Now that actually leads me into the final point here is that I'm sure you have found just as many rando things at a thrift store that you go, okay, you see, you do your research, and you're like, okay, the margins are here, and you really just, yeah, very similar to you. I don't know when things are going to sell. I just know that they will sell, and that's the whole point. I never fall in love with the product. I only fall in love with the numbers. No point in getting excited over like, oh wow, but there's like this thing. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It has to follow a certain amount of criteria. But I tell you what, I always like to speculate when I think something would sell. I'll tell you the thing that it was almost one of those like, oh, it's oh wow, oh wow, oh wait, oh no, oh crap, right? So one of the first things when I was teaching my sister how to do retail arbitrage, we found a brand new Jack LaLanne juicer.
Wow.
Yeah, $15. Now we sold it for like 150, and it sold in like a day. What we should have sold it for was like 400. I still would have sold it in like a day. Like I'm pretty sure somebody bought it from us and then flipped it. So it was one of those things like, oh wow, that's really cool. Look at how much money we made. And then we're like, oh crap, like, oh man, no wonder it sold so good. Holy, oh, we could have made so much more money.
But that's
So
when it comes back to research. And
exactly.
the thing is that a lot of people, especially newbies getting into this avenue, you have to sit there and do the research. This is not an instant overnight thing.
Yeah, and if it is, you did it wrong.
Eh, or if it's an instant overnight thing, you found something really, really special and got really, really lucky, and you need to go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, yeah. Keep that luck running. That's what brought me to the final point because I tell you what, like when we were talking about it before, and I mentioned the gambling story, and you told me about this next thing, Mark, I just about died laughing. It was so funny. And now I live in Utah, so I'm surrounded by this particular opportunity. But Mark, why don't you tell us, tell everybody watching what was back in the day, your college days? Is that right?
Um, yeah, that would have been during my undergrad. It's been about 10 years plus. So, um, e- basically, a friend of mine suggested me when I was at school. He's like, we should sell tumbleweeds on eBay. And I just kind of looked at him and went, "You're nuts." And he's like, "Watch." He found a tumbleweed out because I went to school in cow country, um, or otherwise fondly known as the smell of money. Um, and the the area was, I mean, it was the high plains in New Mexico. Um, the area was filled with, I mean, it was all flatland, and most of what you'll run into half the time would be tumbleweeds. I mean, there were times where I was parked on the campus, and lo and behold, there was like tumbleweeds up right up the front of my car up to the windshield. And during this time period, every time that happened, I never really got mad or anything. I just kind of sat there and went, looking at it, going, "Can I stuff this in a box? What type of box can I stuff this in?" I mean, obviously, it doesn't require any real packing. I mean, or anything like that. It's basically toss in a box, seal it up, and send it out. I mean, in the Southwest, it's an opportunity. Even in Utah, like you were saying. I mean, even the pictures you sent me, going like, "Hey, there's money out in them there fields." I
Yeah,
mean,
I even had one like a picture on Facebook where I was holding it up and I was like, "Look, I caught one in the wild."
right. And and the thing is that you make sure they're clean. Don't have anything weird growing on them or anything like that. And you should be able to feasibly stuff them into as something as small as a medium flat rate box. Um, to basically send it out, and the cost of shipping is minimal, and you're pretty much good to go.
See, and that was the thing. Like, I thought it was really funny, and I was just gonna write it off as a joke. But then I actually researched it, and they're still selling on eBay like crazy. Like, I mean, it's a little bit more not necessarily involved, I guess, but I mean, like, there's like you know, 12-inch by 12-inch and 16-inch by. I mean, like they actually have sizes now where people can request like, oh, I would like a 36-inch, and you're like, okay, and you just step outside. Like, I can literally I can literally walk outside because I'm in the West Desert of Utah. I mean, I know that I'm like, Utah sounds like it's the mountains, and it is, but it's also a desert. Like, you go, it drops in the elevation, and suddenly you're just out in the desert. So I'm right next to Utah Lake, and I take these meditation walks all the time, and so I'm just laughing, and it's one of the, again, why I grabbed one and took a picture of it, and called Mark out on Facebook. It's just like, look, I find one out in the wild. So I mean, like I could literally, like, I wouldn't even need to sell it. I could source tumbleweeds to other people who wanted to sell tumbleweeds to yuppies on the East Coast, or I don't know who buys them.
Well, and I was doing some digging on that, and it was mainly East Coast, New York, Connecticut, um,
Yeah, because they like that Southwest style look.
and even into DC,
Oh, okay.
DC, Maryland, Virginia, that type area.
See, now what that also did was it made me go, and I don't know if we're gonna do anything like this, but that just made me want to, like, just start a YouTube series of like an interview show called "Sell What." Like, what? And you just interview people who just either stumbled across, or they found like these really really good opportunities where they sell just like these really really bizarre things that you wouldn't expect to sell, like tumbleweeds. I think people would watch that.
Well, and you're right. I mean, you could sit there and easily find people who, I mean, even people who live in, live in RVs, live in vans and whatnot, who resell on eBay, um, all over. I mean, especially in the Southwest, especially at this time of the year, because generally, the lower you get from basically Albuquerque southward, even into southern Arizona, you know, it's a lot warmer than it is than, let's say, I don't know, northern Maine at this time of the year.
Just a tad.
I mean,
Yeah.
it brings into mind there was a lady who sells moose poop and makes jewelry and stuff out of it.
Moose poop.
Yes,
I
moose
think you
poop.
told me that before.
Yes, moose poop. She was. I want to say she was either. I'm thinking Maine, if not Montana. I can't remember. It was one of those two. Um, but it the media's they even done follow-up stories to her where you know she I mean the woman has got her sales pitch down.
Wait, hold on. Would you say she had her shit together?
Yes. Yes, we need to add in the rim shot here.
All right, Hangouts used to have that sound effect, by the way, and it's not there anymore. It makes me really sad, but yeah.
Yes,
But
but yes, she did have her shit together. But no, it was just amazing the stuff she sold. She even has an Etsy shop.
an Etsy shop selling. Okay, see, now the only thing that was similar to that was my niece told me that there are people on Etsy who get, like, they scoop up the dead animal, the roadkill, and then they throw the dead carcass in whatever kind of mixture, and basically it strips away all the stuff from the bones, and then they clean the bones, and then it's like authentic animal bone jewelry, right? And like that seems to be like, I mean, you got tumbleweeds, moose poop, and dead animals. Like, ugh. Apparently, people love to buy that stuff.
Well, and it's just, I mean, it's the oddball stuff in it. In it's more of you're not going to sit there and go out and just find it. You know,
But yeah,
it's going to be more of you will literally trip over it and fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's really just the fact that with everything that goes, I mean, you could pretty much find anybody who will buy anything. I mean, you know, you could sell a snow cone to you know, an Eskimo. You know, your sales technique's pretty good.
Right. Normally, I don't buy snow cones, but from you, I'll buy it.
There you go. Mm.
So, so to that end, I mean, like, it sounds like there might be some interesting things we can head down that way. But I think that the major point why we wanted to bring this up is the fact that you'd be surprised at what kind of things that people want to buy. And I know eBay's been around for a while, so is Amazon, but we're in a bit of a new world these days. I mean, the adoption rate of the internet in general, as well as all the, I mean, it's we've all decided that we're going to be all online. And so nowadays, it's so much more widely accepted. It's kind of like all the craze of, 10, 20 years ago of eBay and Amazon. People just sort of forgot about it. But like, I think there's like a new resurgence of that. And it's more of like a real legitimate market. Like 20 years ago, it was like, we'll see if this is going to do something, but now it's real, it's there, where we've all accepted it. And I think it's time for people, more people, to stand up and start, you know, selling stuff and being entrepreneurs instead of just working for somebody else. What do you
Well,
think, Mark?
well, and that's been the biggest thing is that a lot of people, I mean, like I've pointed out to you in the past that, you know, we live in a gig economy. We don't,
Yeah.
people don't necessarily have that luxury of a full-time job anymore. I mean, there are people putting three full-time jobs together or three part-time jobs together to equal to a full-time, or they'll have a full-time and a part-time just in order to make ends meet. And I mean, no matter whatever your political affiliation is, or what have you, it's just a matter of the basic human need, you know. And the thing is that if we as a society sat there and actually taught this type of idea to people, imagine the economic growth that would happen in the long run.
That is a very interesting point to think about, because I'll tell you what, the thing that I really like you said, like this gig economy, is that in another life, I was an information marketer. I would teach people how to market using YouTube. I still do. I do a lot of consulting work now these days. But here's the thing. What I would do is when I would have a problem and I have sort of a mental block, I'd hop in my car and I'd just drive around and I just burn gas. But hey, it was worth it. I could write it off on my taxes, all that other kind of stuff. But when I was in Dallas, I really got into the retail arbitrage thing, but I was also driving Uber. And what was great was because I drive people, to all these different places and stuff, and then I'd find myself right next to a thrift store. And like you were saying earlier, I'd find it either there'd be like 50% off these things or that thing or whatever. So I'd I'd turn the Uber app offline, and
Hmm.
I'd walk into the thrift store and I'd get a few items, and I've been doing it enough to be able to really spot like the really really valuable things. But I was paid to drive around, and then I would step out of my car and then start my other business in the parking lot of of the thrift store, and then I'd buy all my stuff, and then as I was getting my bags, I'd turn my app back on, and then I'd start heading home. So I was literally being paid to build my retail arbitrage business. I mean, like you said, it's that sort of gig economy these days. Now combining different things like that is really the way to go.
Right. I mean, and the thing is that and that's another thing with the with the convoy. A lot of people are even taken to a point of, you know, living in a van, living in an RV and whatnot. I mean, the worst case. scenario of you have a small storage, climate controlled storage unit. That's the key, climate controlled.
Climate, yes, yes, very, yeah, gotta be climate controlled, or else you're just gonna destroy all your inventory.
Climate controlled and on a second floor,
Yeah,
depending on the part of the country you're in.
yeah, but yeah, yeah, and you should definitely need an elevator. There'll be second floor stairs. Ooh.
Well, with me, I would do, if I expanded out any further. Yeah, I would definitely need I would need a climate controlled storage unit. Um, there's only so much room I can have to sit here and have a small broadcasting studio and a reseller business and everything else, rolled into one little corner of my office.
Yeah. So actually, you bring that up. You mentioned the convoy. I mean, that is why we're making this content. By the way, folks, if you're enjoying any of this content, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to click the link in the description below. It's going to take you over to the Facebook group. It's a closed Facebook group, so you have to click to join. But it's not, they're not going to ask you like, oh, because Facebook, you can now sort of qualify people. I think that's kind of stupid. You just click join. I'll add you, and then you'll be a part of the treasure hunting convoy Facebook group, and we actually talk about a lot of different kind of stuff very similar to this. And also, anytime we find deals, we'll share them and say, hey, here's some deals. Oftentimes, I'll go out and I'll say, hey, here's something really, it's so good. Does anybody even want to say like joint venture or something like that? Like we do all the hard work and do all the research and everything like that. And then if somebody wants to, to dip their toe in the water, so to speak, I mean, it's a good group to be a part of. And I haven't really, Mark, maybe you have a little bit more experience than I do, but I don't really know of many other groups that have that sort of mentality of not just like, hey, let's all talk about this, but like, hey, here's some deals. Let's work together. I mean, have you seen anything like that before?
Not that I'm aware of. I have seen other groups that have slowly started to expand into other things, but you really haven't. Um, to get to the core of what we are, uh, we need, you know even those people who are living in their vans, living in their RVs or whatever, travel across the country, and if they're living on like Social Security or Social Security disability, they make a little extra money on the side, which they allow. That's another story. Um, but they can at least, be able to sit there and take pictures of their travels and show people that, hey, I had a really good spot here in, let's say, Kansas, for example,
Hmm.
or I found a really good spot in Salt Lake City, Utah. These are just a couple of just a couple of the things that can be shared with the group, and that way you can sit there and say, you could put it on a map and go, okay, if I'm going to go to Salt Lake City, there's 5 or 6 different places I want to see in Salt Lake, or you know, going to Phoenix spring training baseball in March. That's another big area.
That's really interesting. I was only thinking of like as you're tooling around the countryside and stuff like that, and just sort of like here are some great places where I can sort of share or not share, but I can sort of plant my flag and then sell things or source things or something like that. But using it like you're saying like a destination thing. Like I totally didn't think like that at all. But you're absolutely right. Like there are people who live that RV lifestyle. I mean, the convoy again, as I mentioned before in the initial advertisement of this group, was that it started out as a joke, but so many people were like, "Yeah, let's do it." I was like, "All right, cool." Like that seems like the coolest thing ever to me is this mindset of just like of RVs just all over the country and everybody swapping stories and sharing and stuff like that. But a destination, that's really cool, Mark. That is super cool.
Well, and the other thing, once we get a good sponsor, hey, we could probably do an RV, and get an RV and sit there and travel a certain corner of the country and be like, hey, we can find this, and we can sit there and actually, be in the same room and do a live broadcast.
Very, very good point, by the way. Also, to anybody who has an RV dealership or anything like that. I already have YouTube channels and videos in the works to promote it. So that's a little bit in here. Hey, if you're looking for somebody who can do that kind of stuff, just saying.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that these are different ideas that we want to be able to take, undertake with, you know, when we decide to form a Patreon page um,
Oh
or
yeah, Patreon. I need to write that down too.
yeah. Hey, at least you keep me around for some good reason.
Yeah, nice.
But it's just the little things that you can find. Um, I mean, obviously, I'm only a short puddle jumper flight from Salt Lake, for example, but others, if we could build this up to a point where we have like a annual meeting somewhere. You know,
Oh yeah. Like Convoy Con.
I like that. Yeah, what's wrong with that?
It's a gift. They come to me at night.
Hey, whatever works. Um, but you have to get the idea of when we go ahead and do something like this, and that's one of the things we want to throw out to the viewers, that the idea of, hey, if we want to be build into something like this, we can actually do this.
Yeah,
And the thing is that we can actually show people parts of the country, even some of the just the backwards areas. um
yeah.
like if we went to um Podunk, southeastern New Mexico. um you know could it be, I mean, I call it Podunk mainly for the fact that it's not near a major city.
Right.
And I've I lived in the eastern part of the state of New Mexico for almost 4.5 years. So getting to understand the idea of hanging out in eastern New Mexico in the High Plains area to going to Washington D.C. or to any of these other places, you were able to sit there and get really what you want out of the deal.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. You mentioned Podunk. There's a there's a city here in Utah. It is called Hurricane. It is spelled hurricane, but it's pronounced hurricane. All right, that you want to get Podunk. There you go. No, 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 no. Don't you dare call it hurricane. It's called hurricane.
Fascinating.
It's a few miles outside of Mesquite, I think. Or not Nevada. St. George. There we go. That's
Mm.
it. But all of the Utah is full of Mormons, and what's funny is that like it shares that border with Nevada. So either you're down in St. George and you sneak off to Mesquite to go and gamble, or you're up north and you go to Wendover, which is the city right on the border of Utah and Nevada. And gambling isn't something that Mormons normally do, but every once in a while, ooh, I'm going to go to Wendover. I'm going to take the party bus, or I'm going to go down to Mesquite because I'm going to visit my friends down in St. George.
Well, right, and obviously, anybody who's Mormon, we don't have a problem with.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we want to be
Great
able to.
people, great people.
Yeah, hey, we're all here to sit here and share knowledge and make a dollar.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's we're probably going to turn that into a clip later.
Yeah, that works. Hmm.
Share now. Say that again.
Share knowledge and make a dollar.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. It's a good soundbite. So to that end, we've been recording for about 30, 45 minutes. Is there anything that's come up throughout this discussion that you're like, oh, I want to, I want to put that out there before we get into final thoughts and wrap up?
Well, at this point, I don't really have any major thoughts in that regard. I mean, obviously, this is we're going to make this a weekly thing. Thursday nights, 9 p.m. East, 7 p.m. Mountain, and hopefully we can you know garner enough people to come in and sit there and ask questions, and we could sit there and it's a meeting of the minds.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing is that for those of you who already are a part of the group, if you have questions that you would like answered on the show, all you need to do is drop the question in the group and we'll happily answer that. Or you can always be a part of the live broadcast, very much like when a TV show or game show is filmed, right? It's a very similar sort of situation. So you'd have something similar to us where we have like a like a showrunner, so to speak, and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have questions at these times and these times. This is mostly just to show, like, hey, you should check out the stuff that we're doing and come check out the group. But it's going to get much more involved as the group starts growing because we actually got a little bit of a burst of people just suddenly show up this week. So that's pretty cool. So our advertising. Go ahead.
What are we up to right now?
The biggest push was like right there that first week when it was made back in October, and it was like there was like 30 people that showed up, and then 2 people just showed up today. So I don't know when.
Hey, that works. I mean, the more people that want to show up, we can sit there and talk all sorts of turkey for 45 minutes at a whack.
It must have been the press release or something like that. I've also been yammering a lot about it on all the social spaces. So
absolutely.
All right, so now we're at the end. We're going to do final thoughts. So for me, my final thoughts again here is that all of it is a gamble. Whether you're ready to have your finger cut off, you want to try and 10x your return with PPC, or you're just barely starting this whole thing, it's all a gamble. But the way to really hedge your bets or mitigate your risk is the more economic, or what would it say, the financial. You don't hedge your bets, you mitigate your risk. The way to really truly mitigate your risk is to find mentors and be a part of a community, and that's the community that we've created, and that's why we're creating all of this content. It's why we make the jokes. It's why we talk about tumbleweeds and we do all this other kind of stuff so that you guys understand that it's people working with people, and that's it. And that's the real way to mitigate your risk in this new venture, because it's a gig economy, like Mark was saying. There's no one single way. It's the days of a single company taking care of you and then giving you your gold watch at retirement, those days are gone. The responsibility is on your shoulders, and we want to help. So come and join the group. Final thoughts, Mark?
Well, my final thoughts would be is basically kind of spinning off of what you were saying is the idea of diversification. Basically, don't stick your eggs all in one basket. Go with what you know, but as you go further outside of your comfort zone, make sure you're doing a lot of the research beforehand before you sit there and plunk down that $100 bill, for example. I mean, this isn't something that you really need to sink a lot of money into. You just have to be able to be a combination of street smart and book smart, and being able to know that, hey, this bar decor sign, it's like $8, but yet you look on eBay and you look in the solds and you're seeing 5 to 6 times that. It may be something you want to consider. Home decor is a very large market.
Oh yeah.
And that's a market that I've been slowly but surely getting into myself.
Well, very well said. Very good points, folks. Again, if you are interested in any of this, if this sounds good, make sure and click the subscribe button here on YouTube. And there's also like share buttons and whatnot. If you want to share this on Twitter, on Facebook, those kinds of things, we would definitely appreciate it. But of course, if you want our help and our expertise and a part of a community, click the link below and join the community. So thank you again, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye.